I think I watched that movie once. It didn't have an impact on me, and I haven't seen it since.
I remember going to the theater when I was 12 years old to see Coraline. And I vividly remember the experience because I remember being fucking terrified of this movie.
That's crazy to me. It did not scare me. It didn't do anything to me.
When did you see it? How old
I
were
think I
you?
was probably like a teenager. I didn't go see it as a kid, so I guess that makes a difference. But for some reason, you seem to be very off put by animation and stop motion.
I am.
I guess I don't understand that. I always thought it was really cool.
There is something about, well, puppets. I don't know why I have such a great fear of puppets.
I mean, I grew up with like Muppets and stuff, and I love Muppets. And
I was terrified of the Muppets as a kid
it's
too.
strange. I don't know. I guess it's just how it is.
I don't know what my parents did to me to cause this trauma with puppets. I don't remember. I mean, there's not like anyone in my family that was into puppets. And I don't remember watching a scary puppet movie when I was a kid, but it's there, it exists. And that's really the only thing I remembered about Coraline was just being absolutely terrified of this movie. And one of the things that I'm really fascinated by about the creators of Coraline and then the films that they have done since is that this production company is owned by the son of one of the founders of Nike. So whenever they release a movie, they have a shoe that comes out with it. And the reason is that all of these movies are self-funded and they are never meant to make a profit. So
What are you talking about? What production company is this?
Leica. So they made films like Kubo, Corpse Bride, Paranorman, Box Trolls, Missing Link. Their new film is Wildwood. And so this production company does not make films to make money. And a lot of their films have it. I mean, you look at their films, and most of their films have not done well at the box office, even though most of their films have been critically acclaimed animations. And I think a couple of their films have won Best Animated Feature. And rewatching Coraline these many years later, it is way better than I remember it ever being. And I never understood it because I hadn't rewatched it since I was 12 years old. So I think I missed something about it. But just from a animation standpoint, is absolutely beautiful. I mean, there are some things that they do that just seem really fucking complicated. Like they'll do these really long shots
Yeah.
where they'll move and they're kind of like running around and like all these crazy stuff that shouldn't work, and yet it works perfectly. And I still came out of the film frightened. I'm still
Oh,
terrified of this movie. There is this real terror in this movie about being a kid. And I think I talked about in the regular episode about the authenticity of portraying childhood and how few movies do that well. I think Coraline does a really good job of portraying what it means to be a lonely kid who just moved to a new town, and you feel that loneliness that she has and trying to find friends and doing this thing that I talked about Florida Project too, which is I remember being a kid seeing adults as this weird otherworldly thing. They
yeah.
weren't quite human. And I think Coraline does a really great job of portraying that, of portraying this kind of weird quality of adults from the perspective of a kid, where there's just this disconnection as a kid. You can't seem to connect with adults. They just seem to exist in this other world. They just don't really make any sense. So I was surprisingly pleased by this film.